Hey, gun people. Well, for those that have been keeping up with this trial, it's getting pretty interesting, and I'm hoping people are realizing the corruption in big government and bureaucracy and quota hiring and diversity is our strength, and this trial is nothing but a huge waste of money and time to appease burn, loot, and murder type people who want to threaten to burn down the city if they don't get the verdict they want. I mean, this is just an extension of the lynch mob. Instead of, it used to be the lynch mob would go to the sheriff, take the guy, and go hang him on a tree. Now they just hang out outside the courthouse and say, if he's not guilty, we're going to burn down the neighborhood. So you can either hang him or we'll burn down the town. Just outrageous. But anyway, the most incompetent witness, without a doubt, the female with all the college and degrees and what a great person she is in forensics and how she identified DNA, her ability or her inability to properly process a car is outrageous. Now, some people are saying that they think she was told to only take the shoe, look for blood, and the belt, because that helps the prosecution. And then she was told to ignore the pills because that helps the defense and hurts Saint Floyd, Dr. Saint Floyd. So if that's the case, that's even a huger misjudgment. I was just basing her incompetence and inability to process a car. But I mean, to leave pills and go, well, there was no mention of drugs, so I left it. I mean, again, it's paramount to finding a gun and go, there was no mention this was a gun crime, so I'm searching a car on a murder trial, on a murder case, and I just left the gun. Are you kidding me? So I found another thing, and I'm going to start talking because they haven't gone live yet, and I'm assuming they're going to call in that incompetent female that somehow missed the pills or thought they weren't important when they interviewed a car. I mean, I saw in the other car, they showed pictures in the other car. There was a receipt that was still in the car when she took pictures, and I didn't see that taken as evidence. And I mean, when you're processing a car with a murder, and this is a different type of murder. Normally, you're processing a murder scene to where, and you're collecting evidence where you don't know who the person that killed him is, and you're looking for clues and evidence. So if you're processing a car in a regular murder investigation, not only do you seize everything and mark it, not only do you take pictures of everything, they didn't even take pictures of where the money was at, because, oh yeah, there was money shoved between his seat. Why didn't you take a picture of it before you see? I mean, common investigation 101 is when you always take a picture where you find evidence in the way it was, then you take a picture with something next to it so you know the size of it or number or marking, and then you seize it, and then you initial the time and all. I mean, that's just basic seizing of evidence. And this girl was just, the car was littered with shit, and I'm like, why wouldn't you take a receipt? A receipt would show where he was, maybe where he was right before. Maybe we could get video footage from the Jack in a Box or McDonald's, Burger King, wherever the hell he went, and they had video footage that we can get, and we can actually see them sharing drugs in the car. Well, that might help the defense. And the whole purpose of this trial is to convict a white officer because there was a black victim. Again, I'm not protecting this officer. I'm saying everyone deserves a fair trial. I don't care who you are. And there's been plenty of other incidents where cops have done worse, and they are not prosecuted. That's why this case is not about holding government accountable like some people want you to think. It's about white and black color, period. So while I'm looking around, I see an interview of the guy that I did a video on, the guy that was this guy. What's his name? Hall. This was the buddy, Maurice Lester Hall. And this is the guy that wants to take the fifth. And he has a new lawyer now. I want you to notice, when he was on CNN, he had a black female attorney who let him do an interview, which is pretty stupid. Because, I mean, she should have said, look, this isn't a good idea. He died. You're his drug dealer. You guys were doing drugs together. Just because they let you go don't mean they can't come back. And in her brilliant, I got through law school because if they didn't pass me, I would complain. And so I got through law school, and my bright idea to get on a camera is to sell my client out and let him give a statement that can be used against him later. Now, the key point on this interview is The defense absolutely needs to have Hall to validate this interview and to ask him questions about what he said on this interview. It goes to all kind of credibility, state of mind, what he knew, what he didn't know. And I mean, it's just crazy that they're not going to let him testify. He needs to be called, and if he wants to take the fifth, then he can take the fifth. The prosecution don't want him taking a fifth from the jury, and this is what irritates me about jury trials. They always hide shit from the jury, and then when the jury comes to a stupid conclusion, everybody's like shocked, like, how can the jury be so stupid? The jury isn't stupid. The process, the bureaucracy in our government is freaking stupid, and they stack the deck on what they want to happen. So let's listen to what Maurice Hall said in the company of his brilliant lawyer. And his lawyer even looks like, dude, would you shut up? And she keeps interrupting him trying to talk. But the fact that she let him go on here and she represented him while he was on there is just a horrible move for an attorney. Basically, oh yeah, you want to get on TV? I want to get on TV. Let's go out there. I'm not exposed to prison. I'm not exposed to losing my life. I'm not exposed to the death penalty in case they come down with murder charges on you. I'm not exposed to any of that. Only you are. But if you want to go on TV, let's go. Wow, what a great lawyer. But Rick, she's a woman and she's just as good as, all right, whatever.
Mr. Floyd, I'm always knowing that he's always trying to be as humble as he can.
Be as humble as he can. Okay. So, of course, this is CNN. It's left wing. It's going to push the racial divide. It's going to push everything was done based on color. And this deer in the headlights, white guilt dude that just loves to play into the narrative is just so wants to get this guy crying about George Floyd. But let's see what he says.
Because he gets, big guy status.
Big guy status in the hood or out on the streets is big dudes. Usually people don't mess with them. They kind of like, okay, let's stay clear. Let's give him some room. He's a big dude. Even though the media would have you think that George Floyd was a frail, 90-year-old, frail, invalid that could barely fight off and 3 officers just killed him, even though he had drugs in his system, fentanyl. Again, the media is just so dishonest. It's just ridiculous.
He gets extra attention, good or bad, but he knows how to conduct himself, just like the media and everyone knows he's known as a gentle giant.
He's a gentle giant, but if you show the previous arrest of George Floyd, he did almost the same behavior, started crying, oh man, I don't want to go to jail, no man, you can't handcuff me, and he did the same distracting, and there was a bunch of drugs in the car. And that was a year or two before this incident. By the way, the jury is not going to be allowed to see that, but I digress.
Bottom line. So even dealing with law enforcement that he has no control of, he still tries to come in his humblest form. And that's what I remember witnessing. I've seen it before, and it turned out not like such with him losing his life.
Maybe he lost his life because you sold him drugs. Maybe the drugs that you sold him lost his life. Maybe the drugs that you've been supplying to him and his girlfriend for the past year or two, which has already been testified by the girlfriend, is why he lost his life. This is incriminating, and it's corroborating. I guarantee you, if they charge Maurice Lester Hall with a crime, the prosecution is going to use this tape. Guaranteed. And the fact that they're not going to let the defense use it is bullshit.
And Chris, my client will tell you when he saw and he was experiencing this, he didn't even know that Mr. Floyd was dead at that point. He thought that once he was getting on the gurney and going in the ambulance, that they were going maybe to get him some treatment, or maybe he was too big for the patrol car, so this was another way to take him in. He didn't find out that Mr. Floyd had passed and was killed until the next day on social media like everybody else.
Maybe he didn't know because he was too busy throwing dope from his bag, which was caught on video camera, because he knew that he was going to get arrested and he was taking advantage of George getting beat up and killed so he could get rid of his dope. Maybe that's why he didn't know. No, Rick, he's a good guy. He's like George Floyd. Okay, I got it.
Maurice, when he was on the ground and you heard him screaming near the end, give us a sense of what that was like to hear it and to see what you could Where was your head and your heart when you were watching that?
Head and heart. Head and heart. Let's pull on it. Let's poison the jury pool. I'd like to know how many juries saw this interview. And I wonder if the jury's going to say, why ain't this guy in court? But we'll see.
Behind Mr. Floyd, and I was just feeling helpless because I was being detained by another precinct officer to stay, not so active as far as movement, which was protocol. And
how do you know that's protocol?
After seeing the video the next day, like my lawyer said, and knowing from that angle of the video that was released,
man, that's tough.
It's horrific.
Horrific. I mean, I made a lot of money off George Floyd. Him and his girlfriend paid me a lot. I mean, that's kind of like my customer, and now he's gone and I don't have a customer. So I feel really bad. Really?
It's a horrific act.
You think the officers knew that George was suffering and struggling the way he was?
The one the guy that was on his neck for that long, I really believe from that watch the video, he looked down and studied and knew from my personal
And Chris,
belief.
any human being.
I really believe, and I knew from my personal, she cut him off. You know what he didn't say? Why didn't you warn the police that he was on drugs? Why didn't you say you saw him take drugs? Because I think this guy gave a statement to the police. And I'm wondering how they're going to keep that statement out. But I'm sure the police interviewed him, and he probably said he was acting weird and he was acting strange, just like other witnesses said, and he was under the influence. Not to mention that he threw freaking drugs that he was probably selling or holding for George. I mean, to keep this guy out of the courtroom is outrageous, but I bet they do.
Being with eyes and ears knew he was suffering.
I saw my brother take his last breath. The world saw him take his last breath.
Because of the drugs I sold him. Because of the drugs that I was hiding when the cops had him on the ground beating him, George was able to give me time to throw away my drugs so I could hide it. Wow.
He was dead before he left the scene.
Did you hear the officer?
Maybe he was dead from before he got to the scene from the drugs that you sold him. Man, I look, people, they're going to charge this guy and they're going to use this video and to withhold it from, the prosecutors out there now. Oh, we can't let the jury see him take the fifth. Oh, no, we can't do that because then they will know that he is the drug dealer and he was involved and he was involved in the currency and they were conspiring. And this was a group of drug dealers going out trying to pass phony money so they could get more drugs. So they don't want him testifying.
Saying anything to one another.
When I say they, the
about
prosecution.
what they were doing to Floyd or how George Floyd seemed to be doing.
No, because after they got him on the gurney and he was shuffled out of there, of course they was asking the question, what are they gonna do with myself and the passenger? And they was like, are they good? And asked a few questions, let everyone go and cleaning the scene up like protocol, police, how they do.
They let you go.
Yes,
I think he gave a false name also because he had warrants. I think he's in jail now because of those warrants. And that's why when he appeared in court the other day, the judge says, what's your real name, not the one you gave to the cops. So they've already got him on obstruction, providing false information, lying about his name. They got him on video throwing dope. He was in the car with dope. I don't know why they let him go. When I found dope in the car, everybody went. Unless some guy said, it's mine, I take responsibility for it, it's not theirs. Everybody goes. Because then you got to print the dope, you got to print the bag, you got to take blood tests from all of them. It's a felony blood draw, and then you find out who has it in their system, and you make your case. But I don't know why they let these guys go. Laziness, incompetence, or shit, we're already in the shit with George. Let's just clear this out. I don't know.
They released us. That released us.
While they were on.
He didn't say they released us because I gave him a false name and I had warrants. And his lawyer's looking down like, oh shit, I hope he doesn't say that. Why did I let this guy on here? Because you wanted your 3 minutes of fame and because obviously you failed the course of protect your client when you were getting a free pass through law school.
On George, and counselor, help me if you feel I'm confusing context. I know your angle wasn't great. I know that you were dealing with the fact that you couldn't help him anyway because you were detained. But were the...
And because I was holding dope that I wanted to get rid of, and because I gave him the dope that was probably killing him. So my position wasn't that good.
officers talking to each other or expressing any kind of interest in George's condition while the officer was on his neck? Did you hear any conversation from them about any kind of concern?
And Chris, he was across the street.
Too far away.
It was a lot of commotion. Sirens were starting to come.
Right.
He was too far away.
This video is critical to the defense because it shows that the officers were in a chaotic scene and they were worried about it.
Too far away.
But he did.
All right, we're on the record outside the hearing of the jury. Mr. Nelson, you wish to make a record? Yes. There.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. Just very briefly, for purposes of, it's my understanding that the state is intending to start calling its medical experts this morning. All of the experts ultimately rely on some degree on Dr. Baker's autopsy and his findings and that information. I don't have a problem calling Mr. Baker or Dr. Baker out of order for purposes of foundation. However, I just wanted to make sure that the record reflects that the state does intend to call Dr. Baker.
So in other words, your lack of objection to any foundation is based on the state's representation that they will call Dr. Baker?
Correct, Your Honor.
Is that correct, Mr. Blackwell? The state is going to call Dr. Baker?
Yes, Your Honor, we intend to do so tomorrow.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else for the record?
Why isn't he cross-examining the incompetent woman that missed the dope? What the hell? I can't believe they're not bringing her back.
Before we bring back the jury. All right, can we get my computer and we'll get the jury.
Okay, so they're going back to that. I'm going to finish this and then go back. Where was George Floyd at? That was a different case. Okay, so this video is pretty much over. I also wanted to get this video on here, which I think is pretty funny, but it's pretty valid. So Steven Crowder did an interview for 10 minutes while two people were kneeling on him, and he handcuffed himself and was handcuffed, got on the ground, and had people climb
the other ear because they'll be kneeling right where it's attached to your shirt. Well, what?
Do you? Hey, how do you?
The timer. All right, so
Goodness.
It's okay.
so my left shoulder.
So for 10 minutes, he did an interview. They started a clock, and he never passed out, and he didn't die. This is a pretty good demonstration. I would hope the jury would see this. This is for all the people that the officer killed him. It looks like his knee's pretty much in the same spot as Chauvin's was. Anyway, I'll end it there, and we'll start the see what witnesses are calling.